I'm at the soup store. Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Before I get to the story for today, I just want to let you know that it's perfectly okay to take breaks from burnout for RPG horror stories. I understand that hearing about these stories and terrible DMs and terrible players and bad games going on can kind of take a toll on you because it's constantly like a stream of negativity and make you feel like the whole hobby just full of these terrible things going on. But a reminder that these stories are an exception, not the rule. But either way, it's good to take a little bit of a break here and there. You can always come back to them. They will never go away. They'll wait for you patiently. But anyway, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Of Harpies and Handaxes. This only technically counts as a D&D horror story because it took place in Baldur's Gate 3 multiplayer, but the bizarre event could only happen in a TTRPG style medium. This was an email story submission I got not long ago, but you know what? I want to cover through it. And I understand it's not about TTRPGs and stuff, and it's about Baldur's Gate 3, a video game, but I'm curious to see what it's about. The party is me, a Drow Barbarian, a Githyanki Warlock, a Tiefling Bard, and Will as our NPC fourth. We were in battle with 4 Harpies in a battleground made up of cliffs and knee-deep water, acting as a rough terrain, with an additional mission of protecting an NPC child lured by the Harpies singing. Surprisingly, the escort mission wasn't the horror of this story. The kid was smart whenever he wasn't lured and would use disengage and dash action to get away from the fight. The battle itself was very tough, difficult terrain, enemies who could ignore it all but flight, and one Harpy would always set herself up to sing her siren song while her sisters attacked. It seemed like every other turn, everyone in my party would get lured and be sitting ducks with the Harpy attacks. Even after they were broken out of their trance by attacks, they'd likely fall prey right after. It got so bad that our collective health was so low that our Warlock, the game host, reset the save to prevent a possible TPK. Funnily enough, in both instances of this fight, my Barbarian never once got lured. I guess it was too angry to pay attention to the singing. Isn't it a thing with Barbarian Rage that basically makes you avoid being charmed? Or is that like part of a subclass? I don't remember. I don't really play Barbarian ever. I need to try it. After saves coming, we had a better round against the Harpies. This is where the real punchline takes place. While our Bard was healing himself, I was going to throw a hand axe at a Harpy next to him since I couldn't reach her due to the rough terrain. Somehow, I wound up accidentally selecting the Bard to attack. I was using controller while playing, which downed him and put him on death saves. The funny thing about Baldur's Gate 3 is that the multiplayer mode, the player characters take the turn simultaneously if they're next to each other in initiative order. So our Bard had just finished playing his instrument and healed himself when, in the very next second, he got a throwing axe to the side of his head. The Bard killed the rest of the Harpies the next turn, and we were able to help the Bard right after. But the whole time the 3 of us are laughing at the absurdity of what just happened, with me repeatedly asking, how did that even happen? The Bard took this whole thing in stride and compared the blunder to, if this were an actual TTRPG, I'd rolled a natural 1 on the throw, and our DM decided to be a bit of a jerk. Since then, it became a joke that whenever my Barbarian is about to throw a weapon, the Bard will instinctually duck. Sorry I almost killed one of your own, Morrow. Have a good day. Nah, he probably deserved it. We tieflings are just the devils. Although it's not about a TTRPG game, I could see how rolling a natural 1 and accidentally just slamming the axe into your friend and putting them down is just, that could totally happen at a table. Probably could even happen on my table. I wouldn't down a person, but I'll maybe make him go prone and stuff. I won't be that mean. Either way, thanks so much for this story submission. This also was posted on Reddit, so I'm looking forward to other people's reactions of this story, but let's get to the next story for today. DM ruins multiple D&D games with bigotry and evil sexual fantasies. Trigger warning for racism, sexism, SA, incest, anti-LGBTQ+. This story was posted in 2 parts on a different subreddit before I realized this much larger one existed, so I'll be moving this to this one to get more opinions on it. So this started several months ago, and since the beginning had devolved into an absolute crap show. I'm almost 21. Back in my first year of high school, I met this friend. He has ADHD like me, so we got along pretty well. We maintained contact for a few years, didn't talk the year he moved away, and then started actively hanging out again about 2 years ago. Around the beginning of the year, I was invited to join his D&D campaign, a homebrew world based on video games, full of neat little references to obscure games with an actual homemade title screen song and great music. I'm still amazed at how awesome the world he managed to think up was. But as the campaign progressed, some issues popped up. For context, this was technically my first campaign, as my real first was a bunch of first-timers that didn't know the rules, floundering about, and nobody really learning anything, not even how to level up properly. I picked Warlock, and the rest of the party was, if I remember correctly, a Wizard, Rogue, Barbarian, Bard, Fighter, and Paladin. As things went on, I started to notice that as a Warlock that reserves those slots mainly for big plays or things outside of combat, I never got the opportunity to use them. Every single NPC in every town we came across could sense magic. Not just see or hear the casting, but sense the presence of magic anywhere near them and knew who cast it, no matter what. They could even see through disguised self. Add to this the fact that basically freaking everywhere, magic of practically any kind is outlawed. Wow, that does not sound like a fun world to play in, honestly. If everybody could see through disguised self, then what's the point of having disguised self? People just walking around, a party member casts prestidigitation, and everybody just goes, "Ooh, my spidey sense are tingling, there's magic afoot." So anytime me and Wizard try to cast a spell to manipulate someone for information, even if they're evil, would get punished by the town. Not only that, but anytime I try to use spell slots in battle for spells to control or hinder opponents, the DM would have the enemies find some way to instantly end the spell in one turn. So my spell slots were completely worthless for anything except Misty Step and damage. Good thing you have Eldritch Blast, my beloved. Now if he made it clear this is how the world worked, it would have been fine. But when we brought it up, we're going to be casters, he didn't even mention it in passing. If you're gonna have some obscure or ridiculous rules and stuff, you better let your players know ahead of time that, hey, if you play caster, you have this world, magic is illegal, so just letting you know ahead of time so that players that want to play certain classes don't get ham-fisted into a situation where they're basically screwed and crap out of luck. But then things got worse when I started to realize how racist all the NPCs were towards non-human races. In practically every town, it would be treated like garbage by some of the citizens, but it got worse. Some entire villages were so racist that non-human PCs were referred to as pets for the hour or so we'd be there, and we literally would not be allowed to talk or we'd be prosecuted. Not only that, but we had no way to get back at them either. Try to charm the wagon driver into liking me and treating me with respect? No, you're not allowed to do that. I try to fight back against racist NPCs that intend to subjugate Dragonborns, of which I am one. No, you guys can't do anything about him. Why not, DM? Why can't you do anything about him? Clearly the guy's being a jerk and the NPCs are just being dickheads. Why are you not able to do anything about him? Because you said so? That's stupid. Adding racism to your world is one thing. You should be adding racism as a conflict, as a plot point that eventually gets resolved and moves the plot along. Like maybe a certain flavor. Maybe you have a cranky old man down in the bog, but he sees Dragonborn as the Viet Cong and he has paranoia that Dragonborns are hiding in the trees to assault him. But any sort of conflict like racism should be part of a story to tell the story, tell something compelling, and present challenges for players to resolve on their own, not just completely hinder players or not let them do anything at all. And then to disallow the players to even have any sort of agency to do something about it, or to argue a specific point, or to use, or God forbid, use spells to try to get people to be charmed and actually like them for once. Because you can't do that in my world, I won't allow it. Why, DM? This made the game incredibly unfun for both me and the Wizard, as we were non-human full casters that couldn't do a single thing in 50% of towns and could only talk in the rest. The Wizard is also great friends with the DM, so we'll bring this up to the DM. We tell him it's not fun to be spellcasters. We want our characters treated with respect and we want freedom to make choices. His answer: this campaign is an extension of myself. Changing it will be the same as changing who I am as a person. So sorry, but if you don't like it, don't be part of it. And this is a perfect time to leave, because if the DM can change that tiny part, that tiny insignificant part where people at least let them stay racist but let players have a little bit of agency to do something, if he can change that a little bit, because if it hurts the precious ego, because it's part of their who they are as a person, they don't play with that person. Don't play with his DM. If they literally put their own self-identity on the line when somebody gives them critical feedback, if they can't bend the rules a little bit to allow players to have more fun and freedom to just at least exist in the world and not feel like they're so pressured and cucked the whole time, then you don't play with that person. If they tie their whole identity to how the world works, because that's stupid. That's a really fucking dumb hill to die on. For a while, we were on semi-decent terms. I thought that maybe he was just bad at DMing and had a couple of quirks here and there. Definitely bad at DMing. But then I noticed he seemed to make a lot of jokes about me being gender fluid and making insulting assumptions of statements about my ethnicity. I'm Polynesian. And having "I'm a straight white male and I'm proud" in his bio. So I got a real uncomfortable around him. If you're playing with a DM like that specifically prioritizes what they want to do over what the players want to do, run for the hills, away, and look for a different DM, a different game. One of y'all pick up DMing, because even if one of y'all has even one iota of ability to DM, you could probably have a way more fun experience to deal with this dickhead. The DMs that prioritize what they want to do at all times and not what the players want to do, what the players find fun, aren't fun to play with. He might as well just write a fucking book at that point, because his world does not seem remotely fun to play in the slightest. So the racism was bad enough, but would you believe me if I told you he's sexist too? In a campaign run by another friend, where both players, for the first time he was playing as a woman. Now this was just as we started having differences, so I backed out because I didn't feel comfortable. It turns out I dodged a freaking bullet. As I mentioned before, this was his first time playing a female PC, and of course, non-stop, every conversation he ever had with everyone was him playing his character as a horny prostitute, and with other party members. This was bad enough, but then according to the group, after I left, he said his ultimate goal for the character was that she wants to be snuggled and murdered. And these were his actual words, not just an implication. Jesus fucking Christ. That's not sexism, that's psychopath. The guy has some sort of vendetta against women. Is he an incel? Does he hate women? Does he hate women's existence or something? Or does he just want his character to just die because she's a woman? What was the reasoning for this? Needless to say, he was eventually booted because he made every single other player there uncomfortable. Some of them actually had experiences with sexual abuse, which made it worse, especially considering he knew about it, yet still continued to flaunt his female PC, whose purpose was getting violently snuggled and subsequently executed by presumably the person who violated her. Does he genuinely think that sort of stuff is actually funny and entertaining? To make a female PC just for her to get tortured and then eventually executed? What the hell's wrong with him? This led me to me finding out a bunch more things about him in everyday life, like how every time he meets a woman, he instantly views her as nothing but a potential sex object, expressing disappointment to his other friends if she turns out to be a lesbian, never acknowledging them as a friend, or that he has an IRL incest kink, claiming that if he ever had a daughter and she wanted to have sex with them when she was of age, he would accept. That's disgusting enough, but considering his mindset towards women in real life and the horrific snuggle fantasies he wants to play out in an RP involving IRL friends, I struggle to believe that he would ever think he required her consent. Jesus Christ, this guy's from Alabama. Hell. Yeah, dodge the bullet not playing with somebody like him. Jesus fucking Christ. Holy shit. Run for the goddamn hills from somebody like this. Edit. Forgot to mention, this man and I are no longer on speaking terms for, well, obvious reasons. I would be sorely disappointed if for whatever reason y'all were on speaking terms, because good lord, the kind of person you described here, you need to block and remove out of your life immediately, and everybody should probably, just for the sake of themselves and not dealing with somebody like, should stay away far enough away from this person. If they turn out to be something like this guy and they're going to beyond saving, beyond salvaging of anything, and not even having like a decency to at least be respectful to another person and stuff, you completely stay away from these kind of people. Holy shit. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.